So where we are now, we just came out of the Bellam Valley, the riverbed, and we are now driving towards the village of Cork Hill. We are now down in the region of the road stretch between Cork Hill and Bellam. This is the area where the Paynes several years ago had set up a condominium project, and this whole area is known as Woodsville. The condominium project is located on the side of the hill. This road is frequented a lot nowadays by tour vans, tour buses that take tourists into the Plymouth area. And as we are now passing through the gates, these gates are signifying one area of demarcation leading into the relative, and I'll say relative, unsafe zone, because the zone itself, considered the unsafe zone, the restrictions have been relaxed, and you can now enter and stay within the area, within a certain parameters of the area, for a lot longer than you were able to do previously. I think that ruling came into effect about a month or so ago. So we are now driving on the road which would take us into what's left of the village of Cork Hill. The vehicle that just passed us, that's a police vehicle, and this area is heavily patrolled for the safety of the people who are touring this area and who have business operations, sand mining operations in this area. And also there are a number of people who also still have animals, so there's still an animal husbandry type farming operation that continues in this area. There's also hunting that is now being done, because when the residents of this area, including farmers of areas like Cork Hill and further south, had to evacuate as a result of the volcano, in many instances they couldn't take the animals with them, so the animals were left to roam. Of course, we know of the reports in which there was an evacuation of particularly dogs. So we're actually drawing a bit closer to the Sophia Hills volcano, and we're in Cork Hill village. So what you can see looking straight ahead towards the volcano, the brown bit just on the left side, that is the outflow, the pyroclastic flow that came down, swept around an area between the mountain where the volcano is located and St. George's Hill. So St. George's Hill actually served and still serves as a buffer between the volcano and Salem and areas further north, and then we also have the Silver Hills as a protection for the areas further north. So the pyroclastic flow that came down from the volcano, St. George's Hill served as a buffer, so it swept down the volcano, turned west, and as a result of that obliterated Plymouth. This is at the top of Cork Hill Road, so I'm just going to take a bit of a roundabout here. You can see some of the derelict, abandoned properties, shops, residential properties, etc. All now abandoned because Cork Hill was declared an unsafe area, and not that the pyroclastic flow came down into this area. It was as a result of ash. The heavy ash, well, the light ash that became heavy, and I'll explain that. The ash was blown up into the sky, formed clouds, went up 60-odd thousand feet. What goes up must come down. So the ash came down and it settled also on the rooftops. And as a result of that, rain subsequently came, or just the sheer weight of the ash itself caused a lot of the roofs to cave in. It became very dangerous and a lot of people had to abandon their properties. Another reason why people had to abandon their properties was because the constant stress of sweeping up ash. Day in, day out, ashfall after ashfall, people had to be sweeping up ash, and my understanding from those in authority was that for some people they simply could not take it anymore. Where we are positioned now, we are on the Cork Hill main road, so the Cork Hill Road is still intact. The markings on the road here indicates now the Cork Hill Road is actually being put to a different use. It is now a racetrack, a drag racing track for a lot of younger people with fast cars, and that is a growing sport in Montserrat. A lot of the young men with their fast cars not only race on this drag strip in Montserrat, they also go to the neighboring islands to compete. So we're on the Cork Hill main road. Industry, again, we spoke about previously in the Belém Valley, the sand mining. If we just took a look at this sign, this is the energy exploration project for geothermal energy, capturing the heat from beneath the earth as a result also of the volcano. Again, using that analogy, when you get lemons, you make lemonade. So there's exploration going on. So we're still on the Cork Hill main road, and a part of it, that bit that we just drove down, that is where the drag strip is. There's some people who would say back in the day, in pre-volcano Montserrat, the Cork Hill Road itself was a bit of a drag strip. You can't smell it, but we can. The acrid smell of sulfur coming from the volcano. I'm just turning up here that you can get a view of this. This is another aspect of the sand mining operation that's taking place in Montserrat. So this is one of the depots, to call it that, from where the sand is mined and is stored here for export sand and aggregate. So we'll just drive into this area just to give you a view. I must say that the smell, and I think we can safely call it the stench of the volcano, is very strong in this area where we are. So this is the sort of heavy industrial machinery that is used in this operation. So it is quite a sizable operation, and just over yonder is the volcano. And a lot of the material is stored here. You can just observe the greenery in this area. The pyroclastic flow did not come down in this area. What happened, the sand was mined, some of it from this area, but was collected from elsewhere, brought here and stored, processed, put on the back of dump trucks, taken down to the port and exported. Now, if I can just position the car, you can just take a peek. What we're looking at over there, that's an abandoned residence on Richmond Hill. We are not able to and are not allowed to go directly into the town area, but we can get into a part of Richmond Hill, so we'll take a quick look at that. I just observed something, and if my cameraman would keep rolling, just roll back. Sometimes you get a glimpse of these things. And if you were to position the camera, so that's what I was talking about, the outflow from the volcano. So what we're looking at here, just got a glimpse of this. This is the outflow, the pyroclastic flow. So it came down off the volcano, the hill that we're looking at here. We'll get another view of it. This is St. George's Hill. One of the things that we're noticing with St. George's Hill is that it is slowly over time deteriorating. So St. George's Hill served as a buffer to the pyroclastic flow. So the pyroclastic flow came down off the Soufriere Hills, and because of the presence of St. George's Hill, part of the outflow swept over to the east of the island. But the bit that came west was redirected by St. George's Hill. So it came off the Soufriere Hills volcano. Some came straight down, but quite a lot of it actually came down and took a right angle turn, and that's what actually swept down into Plymouth. And judging from our vantage point here, from where we are positioned, taking a look at those boulders. Those are massive boulders, so many of them, and that gives you an idea of the energy and the force that hurled these things out of the volcano. Okay, panning around onto this sign here, it says entrance by foot beyond this point into zone V, including Plymouth, is strictly prohibited. And going into Richmond Hill, you see the road is still very much intact. And we're going into Richmond Yard and the old sugar mill, which used to be the Montserrat Museum. Now, this structure that we're looking at here, this is part of the installation of the Montserrat Volcano Observatory and the Disaster Management and Coordinating Agency. This is the siren. That is what came out of the volcano. And just as we come around to the right, looking across to that hill, we will see the top bit, you can see it in the picture now, of a sugar mill. That area is Parsons Estate. Immediately below that is what's left of the Montserrat American University of the Caribbean campus. So the way the pyroclastic flow came down, and it created a canyon, a massive canyon that was carved out of the landscape that wasn't there before. So the pyroclastic flow cut a massive swathe of destruction right down through Webbs, all the way down into Plymouth, right down to the sea, and demarcated Plymouth into two areas. To the south, AUC, Kinsale, Jingos, and everything further south, and to the north, Richmond Hill, then on to Cork Hill. So what we're looking at here, we are now looking towards Lovers Lane and the installation where we had the power station, Montserrat Electricity Services power station, a lot of industrial operations. That building that we're looking at now, the former location of the power station, and a number of residential properties. That's the Lovers Lane area, St. George's Hill area. And I was speaking of St. George's Hill. If cameraman Philip can just make a gentle pan on up to the side of the hill, up to the top. And I was speaking about the gradual deterioration of St. George's Hill. If you look at that, it's as if someone, a giant, has taken a shovel and scooped out a good chunk of St. George's Hill. That is being explained to me is the result of the acidic rainfall, the acid rain, the sulfuric rain coming out of the volcano with the ash and all the fumes and the sulfuric acids. The vegetation is not holding the soil. It's a slow process, but St. George's Hill is in a sense coming apart. And we can just take a look at the massive boulders that came out of the volcano, swept down into the town area. Nothing in its path stood a chance. And what the outflow from the pyroclastic flow did, or the stuff that came out of the volcano did, it essentially split this part of Montserrat into two. We are now driving into the Richmond Hill residential area. Upscale properties, all abandoned. Not directly affected by the pyroclastic flow, but affected by the ashfall as a result of the eruption from the volcano, and also how unsafe this area became. You notice that we haven't had a pyroclastic flow in this area, but the ashfall became a problem, and also, quite significantly, the challenge to the people in authority, the security services, etc., to evacuate people from this area. Because the cutoff point, really, I spoke about the pyroclastic flow separating Plymouth, or essentially cutting that bit of Montserrat into two, so you'll have the areas Plymouth South and Plymouth North separated by the pyroclastic flow. Well, further to the north, just beyond Cork Hill, the Belém Valley area we came through, pyroclastic flows came down through that area. So the Belém Bridge was destroyed, the golf course was destroyed. It was a direct line from the volcano to the back of St. George's Hill, because part of the flow came around St. George's Hill, depending on the bit of the soufriere that the pyroclastic flow came down, and rendered Belém Valley impassable. So if people were living in this area, with the risk of a pyroclastic flow coming down the Belém Valley area, they could not be evacuated. So common sense dictated, and safety, that these properties over here had to be evacuated. Coming out of one part of Richmond Hill, this road here is the road that would come up from the Sturge Park area, beyond, coming out of Plymouth, coming via the St. Anthony's Anglican Church, coming across by the cemetery, passing Sturge Park. So we are now heading towards the Montserrat Springs Hotel. Here we are. This is what's left of the Montserrat Springs Hotel. We are in the parking lot of the Montserrat Springs Hotel as we pan around, and we will come right around to the entrance of the Montserrat Springs Hotel. This is what's left of this fabulous property. This is the entrance to what's left of the Montserrat Springs Hotel. The Montserrat Springs Hotel has now become a museum of the damage and the destruction and the devastation caused by the volcano. The Montserrat Springs Hotel, or what's left of it as it is actually now a bit of a tourist attraction. Just coming out of the parking lot of the Montserrat Springs Hotel, we are in Richmond Hill residential area, looking towards the volcano.